Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
two certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only two best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go.
Happy New Year.
Hello to the next iteration of the Roaring 20s.
To the next decade.
It's like we should find something else to call them, like an update to the Roaring 20s. I was going to say the Boring 20s, but I really hope that's not the case.
I hope not.
It's just because it rhymes. The Whoring 20s? I shouldn't have said that.
I feel like we won't know what to call them until they're over.
That's true. Yeah, that is true. Well, okay. Without further ado, we have an update from our December episode. Do you guys remember our listener who wrote in about her boss being really weird about never celebrating her birthday or milestones?
Work anniversary or anything like that.
And she would like never get cake, even though the other coworkers would get
cake and cards.
Presents, and she just got like dusty chocolates from the supply closet. She was basically being treated like Harry with the Dursleys.
Or Cinderella.
Either. Okay,
Yeah.
We have an update from her.
Okay. Hi, Krachel. I just wanted to give you an update and say thank you for answering my question on your recent episode. I did exactly what you said and tried to discuss things with my boss. She wanted no part of it and just told me to go eat some of the cake she bought for someone else that day. I tried again a few days later, but she blew me off again and then said some very snarky things about me in the staff meeting. So I quit. I had been so scared to move on, but I just took the leap and did it. And guess what? My new boss got me a cake on my first day to welcome me and show how excited everyone was that I had joined their team. Everyone has gone out of their way to try to make me feel respected and wanted. I even got a $100 gift card for Christmas like everyone else after only being there for 2 days. I am in awe over how I'm being treated and am so happy you helped me see that I wasn't being silly and I deserved better. And no, it wasn't about the cake. Thank you again for your help. I hope my story can help someone else realize their value too. From Jessica.
Now
I love that it wasn't about the cake, but you still got the cake.
That is the best, most karmically satisfying story I've heard in a long time.
So good.
Her boss, that is just like the best FU to that wicked stepmother of a boss. Like, up yours, lady. She got her cake and she got to eat it too. And I'm literally
and $100 gift card.
And I'm so happy for you, Jessica. And yeah, like, do not accept the dusty ass chocolates from the supply closet of life. Get you someone who will celebrate you with cake
On
and $100 on day one and day two of your work experience or your life experience. This can be translated to any interaction with people.
I love this. Thank you so much, Jessica, because that hopefully will inspire a lot of people in a lot of ways to stop taking the crumbs of life, man.
That's a great way to kick off 2020 is with that story. I'm so happy about that. All right. So with that, here's our first question. Dear Krachel, so I'm basically realizing that I have virtually no self-esteem. Like, I don't actively tell myself every day that I hate myself, but my actions pretty much dictate how I feel about myself, in that I don't do things to take care of my body and my mind. It's not laziness. It's literally that I don't care enough about myself to do it. And it's super distressing. I'm the type of person who, when you ask them, what's your greatest strength? It floors me. I can barely answer. And when I do, it's generally an answer about how I've done something for someone else, an endeavor that provides some means of external validation because I can't seem to self-validate. If you ask me, what would your friends say about you? The default thought is something negative. I don't see myself having any value or worth that doesn't come from external sources, like my physical appearance. My soul is screaming every day. I believe I have so much more potential than I'm allowing myself to achieve, but I grew up in an environment where I was criticized constantly and was emotionally neglected. In a nutshell, I'm emotionally stunted, and it prevents me from doing things that don't provide external validation, especially if it's not immediate. I don't really look at this as just a fear of failure. It's literally that deep down, I don't believe I have anything to offer. How do I show myself self-love when I don't even know what there is about me to love? And yes, I am seeing a therapist, LOL. Thanks, Sarah.
Oh, Sarah. This breaks my heart because I can already see one thing that you can't see about yourself is that you're incredibly self-aware. You just wrote out this whole thing. You understand exactly your mindset. You can see it very clearly. You know that this is not how you want to continue to operate in the world. You can even see where it came from a traumatic background. So you're incredibly self-aware and you're not even giving yourself credit for that.
So, okay, sorry. Were you going to say something? You were probably saying something.
I just really wanted to highlight this line. My soul is screaming every day.
Yeah.
And I wanted to highlight that because your soul doesn't scream when you're telling it the truth. When it believes that what is going on in your mind, in your body, in your heart are aligned with the higher truth. Yeah. Your soul is screaming because your thoughts are so wrong and inaccurate.
Yeah. So I'm going to follow up with that by highlighting another part, which is where she said, and I was waiting for this because I was like, there's no other explanation than, having been grown up in a really shitty situation. And that's what she's saying happened. She was criticized constantly and was emotionally neglected. Okay. I think Sarah knows this, but for those of you who don't, your parents are the people, or the people who raise you, the environment you grow up in is the model through which you learn how to talk to yourself and how to love yourself and what kind of regard to have for yourself. So if you grow up in an environment that's devoid of that, then you will have a very difficult time being kind to yourself, being compassionate to yourself, knowing how to love yourself and others, have empathy for yourself, all of those things. So the kind of connection I want to draw here between what Kristen said, which is your soul is screaming because you're not telling it the truth, and your background is this. Your experience growing up was completely inaccurate. You were not treated with love and kindness and respect, which is not correct. It was not correct that you were not treated that way.
Because all humans deserve that.
You deserved that, fundamentally. So the problem is that now you've imprinted all of those negative experiences about yourself. It's become your kind of the primary way that you speak to yourself on a daily basis, but it's all modeled from a place of inaccuracy. So here's one of my loopholes for you, is that any thought you have that makes your soul scream, or any thought you have that is clearly coming from a place that was modeled for you in childhood, is false. Because the experience you had in childhood was completely wrong, the thoughts you are having now that are a direct result of your childhood are also completely inaccurate and incorrect.
We did a podcast episode a while back, and maybe Rachel will remember when, I never do. But it was called The Fruit of the Poisonous Tree. And it essentially, and we'll link to it so you can go listen to the full episode. It was
late summer, early fall.
All right. We'll see how
I'm pretty sure I'm
right
about that.
And the premise of that is that any thought that came from a poisonous seed or a poisonous beginning is inherently inaccurate. And that's exactly what's happening here. You learned these things from people who were not treating you in the way that you deserve to be treated as just a human being on the planet. And so everything that you learned from them, or every thought that stems from that experience, is equally wrong, just as their behavior toward you was wrong.
It was August 2019.
See, I can always count on you to know. So that's just the first thing to counter when you have those thoughts of what's my value, and I'm not good enough, and what worth do I even bring to this? Those thoughts are inherently wrong because they came from an experience that was inherently poisonous.
Yes. I know that's not necessarily enough to cure you, which is great because you're seeing a therapist and it's not my job on a podcast to snap my fingers and cure you. But I do just want you to understand that the first thing you have to admit is that none of the thoughts you're having about yourself are accurate. Because you will take it too seriously. You will believe everything that you say about yourself. So you have to first pause and ask, how true is this given where it comes from? And
the first step is just to break that pattern. The pattern is hear the thought, believe the thought. So the next step is hear the thought.
Don't believe the
thought. Question the thought.
Yes.
Tell yourself that's not an accurate thought because of where it came from. So that's the first stage in breaking this pattern.
I want to expound on that for everyone, not just for Sarah, by saying, and this is something I've had a hard time integrating, but that has been really, really helpful the more I've gotten good at it, is you come built in as a human with this ability to measure how accurate a feeling or a thought is. And it's literally, well, I guess I'll say how accurate a thought is. And it's your feelings about that thought. So if you have a thought that I am unworthy or I'm not worthy of love, and it feels like garbage, it makes your soul scream. I want you to imagine like you're playing a game of warm or colder, like hot or colder when you were a kid, right? You did go on little scavenger hunts and you got closer to something that was hidden. Someone would say hotter, 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 or colder, colder if you were moving further away from it, okay? So when you are over there in feeling completely castigating, no self-worth, you are in cold, like you are ice cold.
And you can tell that because it feels so bad.
Because it feels so bad. You might not actually physically feel cold, but you will feel like garbage, which is the emotional equivalent of being in the cold zone.
Yep.
The closer you get to truth, the more you will feel good. The more you will feel at ease, joyous, lighthearted, optimistic, hopeful, satisfied.
Even just content. Settled within yourself.
Yes. That is closer to truth. And the reason it feels like truth, or the way you know it's truth, is because there is no dissonance. There's none of that soul screaming because your soul inherently understands that what you're feeling is the truth.
Because your thoughts and the truth are aligned. There's this alignment between that, and it feels very good and settled and peaceful in your body.
I know that this is going to be a hard thing for a lot of you to buy into because your logical brain wants to argue. It wants to be like, well, how do you know that it's true? I'm not hanging out with y'all on the mental sphere here. We're going to an intuitive, feelings-based place, which is that you have to take my word. Well, you don't have to, but I'm asking you to take my word for the fact that you have a truth barometer, and it is your feelings, and it is your intuition, and that anything you feel that feels like garbage can't possibly be the most truthful interpretation of that thought because it feels like garbage and because your soul is not meant to feel like garbage, because no one's soul is meant to feel like garbage. No. You didn't come here to feel like garbage. I can guarantee you that. So I've asked a lot of clients with similar backgrounds to you, Sarah, to integrate that thought, to like go home and really practice with asking themselves, which zone am I in right now? I'm in cold? Am I like a little bit warm? Am I red hot? Here's the problem. You're almost never in red hot zone. And so your whole experience has been in cold and you don't know what warm feels like. And so you think it doesn't exist. Yeah. And so I just want you to maybe be on the lookout. This is the best way for you to start giving yourself self-love. We can't go from ice cold to red hot for you. You cannot make that transition that quickly.
That's way too big of a leap.
Too big of a leap. It's not possible. So we need to work you way up. We need to work you up to the ability to be in the red hot zone, which means you have to look for a little bit like the next warmer thought or the next warmer evidence instead of the cold, like the super cold that you're in, which might mean, I don't know, you're having a thought that's like, I suck and everyone hates me. Okay, that's pretty damn cold. What's a slightly warmer thought? Well, certainly one person doesn't hate me.
Not everyone on the planet hates me. A person likes me. That might be a start.
That's probably not, right? Like, it's probably not true that everyone hates me.
Or, can't think of anything good about myself. Well, maybe I could find one neutral thing.
One thing that's not
even
that bad.
A neutral thing, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes moving from cold to hot, you have to just take a pit stop at neutral.
Yes.
Now,
many pit
these
stops.
things are fine. in these ways, I'm not so bad.
Yeah.
That's an okay place to go. That's not the place we're going to stop, but that's a stop on that train to the destination of getting in alignment with the truth about who you are and what value you bring.
Yeah.
Another thing I want you to try is I would love for you to find a picture of yourself, a photograph of yourself of when you were really small, like 2 or 3. When I just don't think that there's anyone who can look at a picture, who's not a psychopath, who can look at a picture of a toddler and say the kind of things that we say to ourselves on a daily basis.
No one likes you. You're not worthy of love. You know, you have nothing to give or offer. You have no value. You can't possibly look at a kid with all that innocence and say those things and so mean it.
I want you to find an actual picture of yourself from that really young age. And when you have those thoughts, I want you to challenge yourself to have to say it to that little girl. And I hope and believe that will give you pause, because there's no way that that little girl is not worthy of love, is worthless, has no value, is not good enough to get the things that she wants in life. So if you can look at that picture and remember that's still you, that you're the same person and you deserve all of the same things that you did at that young age, then hopefully it will, again, break this pattern of you having those thoughts about yourself and immediately believing them and acting as if they're true.
Mm-hmm. I know I've said this on the podcast before, but we've had so many episodes that I couldn't possibly tell you which episode, which is great because now I just get to repeat myself and people think I'm saying it for the first time. I know I'm not. But I feel like we've had this conversation about the little kid before. And one of the things that I have said is there is no discernible place where you make the switch from innocent and undeserving of any sort of malice to deserving of malice. Like, I don't know when people think that we lose our innocence and that we all of a sudden, because we grew up, we deserve our own self-hate or criticism. I don't think that we ever actually make that switch. I think the world tries to maybe make it seem like we deserve that. I don't think any of us deserve that.
Nope.
And so I think, Sarah, you deserve it even less, in that you never even got the opportunity as a kid, clearly, to be shown real love and empathy and compassion. And so you deserve even more than everyone else to go back and give yourself that, because you never even got it in the first place.
Yeah, you deserve an excess of it to make up for that. And so I was glad that you told us that you're seeing a therapist, because I hope that that's going to be able to mirror for you the truth about it's very hard to do this in your own head. And I fully recognize that. That's why there are people who are trained to be able to help you see yourself more objectively and to be able to mirror the truth when you can't see it because you're so caught up in your own mental circles. So that's fantastic. And these are just some other ways that you can be practicing this on your own and then go bring that into a therapy session.
I think the episode we talked about that in was in our side chat about learning how to reparent your inner child.
That would be a good one.
Which I will, as well. That's not what it's called, though. So if you are interested in that episode, go to the show notes and I will have figured out what it was really called and when it's from. And then you can go listen to that too. That would be another piece of homework for you, Sarah, to check that one out. Okay, wow.
There's a lot more we could have gone into, but hopefully that just gives you a few
On to our next
nuggets.
one.
Okay. Dear Krachel. Okay. I want to dance and love to dance. My husband likes to dance a little bit. However, we got into trouble when his insecurities and jealousy rose up over not being as good as the others. He then didn't like that I danced with others, including the teacher. He feels that dance is a romantic thing, and therefore I should only dance with him. I have danced since I was young, and I danced in this community since before we even met. I've rarely danced in the past 5 years now. I've expressed my emotional pain over this loss, the feeling of part of me dying. Now, he says, forcing his willingness to let me go, to go have fun. I think this is growth, which is good and important. However, my mental baggage always stops me from proceeding. I think of his feelings, the history, and start saying stupid things to myself like, consider the cost, or tomorrow's plans, or time home, or what kids' needs are, blah, blah, blah. And by the time I'm done fighting my mind, I'm spent and I just don't go. or I go but feel badly the whole time. Give me a way to take control of my mind. And this is from just D.
I'm not. Her husband's on my shit list. I think the question that is on my mind right now is, what do we owe to other people?
Mm-hmm.
Do you owe guilt for loving something? Nah, I don't think you do. You know? Do you owe going through the list of logistics about why it doesn't make sense for you to do something you love? No, I don't think you owe that to them either. I'm thinking about, you mentioned your kids briefly, about like that's one of the things that pops up on your list of like why I shouldn't go, because it's like, oh, well, I have to do this tomorrow. Da, da, da. Cheryl Strayed, who wrote the book Wild, once said that, the way that I explain and justify going off to a cabin for 3 weeks and leaving my kids and my husband alone so that I can finish a book, which a lot of people would call a selfish pursuit, and a lot more selfish than going to one evening of dance a week or something like that, is she says, I want my kids to have an example of a mother who pursued her passions like a motherfucker. And I loved that. And I think that's what your kids are owed too. If your kids are owed anything, if people in your life are owed anything, it's the example of someone who's doing something she loves and finds joy in and has decided not to really give much of a crap about what other people think about it.
Yeah. If right now the guilt is so strong that it's hard for you to just go for your own joy because the joy feels like it's been kind of muted,
tainted,
then on the way to reclaiming your joy over dance, I do think that a good step is, what do I want to model for my kids? Do I want to model for my kids loving something but giving it up because it made someone else uncomfortable? Or do I want to model loving something and throwing yourself into it and getting as much joy as you possibly can from the things in life that you're passionate about? Yeah, I want to model that for my kids.
Mm-hmm. I cannot get around the fact that you do not owe guilt or like stopping even doing something because it makes someone else uncomfortable. Like, that's their problem to overcome, not yours to deal with. Like, your life is not a reaction to other people's discomfort.
Oh, and as a people pleaser, recovering people pleaser myself, I understand this. I understand how when someone else is uncomfortable by what you do, especially when someone who you love maybe most in the world, then of course it makes you uncomfortable. And all this is doing is causing more of a disconnect. I know that you think going to dance is going to cause more of a disconnect.
No.
But it's not.
No, it's
this
causes more resentment
is causing a greater disconnect. So while the point is not at all for you to make him understand, he may never understand. And at this point,
fine.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, this is your thing.
That's his problem to overcome, not yours.
Right. His reaction is about him, not about you. If you would like to try to communicate what this means to you, it sounds like you probably already have, but if you would like to communicate it, and then at that point,
a slightly different angle,
and then you can decide at that point, I've explained this as well as I can, and now I'm going to do it for myself. Then a great way of communicating this with your husband is to, clearly he thinks of dance as a romantic thing. That is not how you view it. You are coming at this from very different viewpoints, which is a big part of this disconnect.
Right.
So if you can explain, when I go dance, it provides all of these things for me. It gives me joy. It makes me feel light. It's a stress reliever. It makes me feel more myself and more in my body. And it does all of these wonderful things for me, that it provides things that I then want to come home and bring back to you and bring back to the kids and bring to my work. And it refuels me in this powerful way. Then there's the opportunity for him to see this as not something that you're doing to take something away from him, but to actually bring something to yourself that will spill over onto him and the kids. Now, if he doesn't still get it, at that point, you can't make someone get something that they don't want to get. I do think that might help explain it in a way that puts words around what it does for you, because I'm not sure he gets that fully.
I would also add, because I'm always thinking about how to appeal to, the like male who doesn't understand. I'm actually not thinking about that much because I don't try to spend a lot of time appealing to people or men who don't understand. But I would say that support is sexy.
Yes.
And not grudging support. Actual support is very attractive. And I think that is a good point to make to a spouse who doesn't support you, is to say, no, not any of this half-ass support. Like, actual support and understanding is the most attractive thing of all. So what's funny is that if you want a romantic experience with me, maybe you don't get that through dance. But here's the thing. I'm not getting it through dance either.
Right.
But if you support me in doing something that provides me all of this joy and energy and lightheartedness, we will have more romantic experiences.
Yes.
We will have a better relationship. It will be I will be more attracted to you than if you begrudgingly try to guilt me into not doing something I love. That is the kiss of death in a relationship, to be honest.
If you want romance, that's not the path to do it. The path to do it is to say, I support you in doing the things that you love. Now I feel very romantic toward you when I come back from dance, because I'm thinking, I just got this thing that I need and my partner's so supportive of this and I'm just filled up and I bring that back to you.
Right.
So
that's the best argument you can make, I think.
I agree. So that's maybe a slightly different approach from what you've tried in the past. If that doesn't work, at this point, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it because you want to fill yourself up. You know those things are true about what dance does for you. And you also want to model for your kids that prioritizing the things that you love is a valid use of your time and energy. And other people's discomfort doesn't dictate what you do with your time. So I hope that helps you shift your mindset a little bit, maybe communicate a little bit more clearly. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to change his reaction, but you can change your approach to the things you love.
Whew, I could go on about that, but I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop myself from going on about that. Let us know. I mean, of course, Dee and, Sarah, please let us know how these, suggestions are working for you. Yes. We like reading updates, as evidenced by the beginning of this episode. Okay, last one. Dear Krachel, last night, I sabotaged a budding 3-month relationship with a man because I was unable to gain clarity on whether or not I was ready to be a stepmom to his 3 young children, should this lead to marriage. I know it's jumping the gun, but I'm 32 years old and I feel the pressure to meet someone who's really right for me and to have kids with them when the time comes. The rational side of my brain told me all the reasons this situation is not a good fit for me. I'm not the most well-adjusted person who can handle the emotional baggage that comes with an ex and 3 kids, though I have made great strides in the past few years to be a better person and have definitely come a long way in being less socially anxious. But here's my dilemma. I always pictured a life of firsts. First husband, first marriage, first honeymoon, and first kids, and I never had an exposure to blended families growing up. Given that in today's society there are more blended families than ever before, am I making a mistake thinking I can have a life of firsts? I've fallen in love with this man and I don't want to look back feeling like I've lost out on the love of my life. He's now questioning if he's ready to be in a relationship as well, has not returned my feelings of love, though he says he cares about me deeply and is passionate about our relationship, and I think I overwhelmed him emotionally, leading to his distancing. How do I determine what to do from here? Your biggest fan ever, Christine.
Christine. I'm really glad that you're putting so much thought into this, frankly, because while I know that you say, I love him deeply, and I believe that you do. And you're right that this is a different relationship than being in a relationship with a man who is not a father. This is a different dynamic. And
100%. I mean, very different.
And especially 3 small children. So they're, pretty impressionable ages. It's not like they're grown children who are mostly self-sufficient. You're thinking about this in the right way, in that if you are not sure that you want to be a stepmom to 3 kids, he comes with 3 kids.
Yeah.
That's the deal. That's the scenario. And in my opinion, you want to be just as in love with the kids and the idea of motherhood as you are with him.
I think she has 2 separate issues that she's dealing with. One is what to do about this current situation that she's in. And 2 is it right for her to expect a life of firsts?
I agree. I agree.
So let me answer the first one and then we can do the second one.
Yeah.
So the first one is, by your own admission, you're not as well adjusted as you'd like to be.
Before being a mother.
And you understand that having 3 stepchildren and an ex-wife or girlfriend or whatever to contend with is emotionally a lot of baggage. So to me right there, you've already made the most wise decision, which is, I don't know that I'm well adjusted enough to handle this, because this is a lot.
This is a complicated situation.
My thing is, if you are doubting at all, you're doing the right thing and pulling back. Because this is the kind of situation that you don't get into lightly, and that you have to be 100% really clear and committed on before you dive into a dynamic like that. Also, the other person has to be very clear about you too. And for whatever reason, maybe because he senses your uncertainty, or maybe because he's wary about getting into something, kind of like hot and heavy with someone, considering he has 3 kids, whatever his reasons, he's also pulling back. So what I'm saying is, if you've got 2 people who aren't really sure, to me, that's just like the biggest indicator that this isn't the right relationship, period, or it's not the right timing for this relationship. And that what's needed is for you to go off on your own and get clear on, what do I really want? What do I think is possible for me? And I don't think it's actually possible for you to get clear on that when you're in a relationship with someone, because being in a relationship with them emotionally skews you to the point where I'm not sure you can make a clear decision.
Right. You can't decide, am I okay with being a stepmother to someone's children, if in your mind you're thinking about this particular person and these particular children, and you can't actually take a step back and say, is this something I am willing to do or not do? And if so, what are the parameters around that? If he had 1 child, would that be different? Is 3 children a lot to be a stepmother to? Is that, is there a distinction here? And I'm just not sure you can get that clarity without a little bit of a step back.
Yeah, you need distance from this. I don't care if he's the perfect man. I don't care if he's like, your exact dream for what you wanted in a relationship, and he has 3 kids and you're not sure about that. You still shouldn't necessarily be in a relationship with that man if you're at all uncertain about his kids.
Yeah.
So it's not like a, can our love overcome his children situation, which I don't think is what she's saying, but I just want to make
sure
it
the kids
very
are fine,
clear.
But can our love overcome my uncertainty about being a stepmother?
No, that's not the question. That is not the question. Okay?
Nope.
The question is, am I committed to the idea of being a stepmom?
Because that's part of this deal.
Right.
That's not a thing that you can kind of take or leave with this man. That's a part of
Kids
this.
don't deserve a step-parent who's like, well, my love for your dad overcame my reluctance about you. Nah, I don't think those kids deserve that.
There's a handful of things that are real and true deal breakers in a relationship.
That's
and one of those things is, what's our stance on kids?
Yeah.
And not even that you don't want them necessarily, but do you want them in this way or in this timing or this many or all of those factors can make deal breakers. So you need to get really clear on that.
Which is something you can only do, again, in solitude.
Okay, so question 2 is it okay for me to want and maybe even expect a life of firsts
as a 32-year-old woman?
Right.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Sure.
Like, there's no wrong answer here.
I would examine a little bit of why you want that. And if the reason is I'm uncomfortable with other things and I don't know what that looks like, well, okay, maybe you want to examine that. But if it's just, I like that, I want that, that's what I desire, that's what I envision, and the only thing that's preventing you from believing it's possible is I'm too old for that, then that's not a good enough reason to not want something.
I think we have to examine your intention, again, as always, for why you want that thing. So personally, as a 31-year-old, for a long time, in my 20s, I was like, I would never date someone who's been married before. Now I'm like, I actually would be fine with that. And you're going to laugh, might prefer it. Here's why. I think that women are usually faster on the personal development train than men. Sorry to generalize, but also I know my I know my work in the world, and I've seen too much evidence that women are
There's a lot of reasons for that, but one of them is just it's more societally acceptable for women to do that kind of introspective work.
Women tend to be more interested in emotional intelligence and all of that, and more adept at it as well. Not to shade any of our emotionally intelligent male
there's
listeners.
a lot of them out there, and I've worked with a lot of them.
They're great. And I think that going through a really difficult experience like a divorce can be a catalyst to personal growth for a guy in a way that maybe they can't find in other ways. The way that, I was able to find that without going through something quite that serious. So I'm actually totally fine with that now because I understand that having gone through something like that could be a really, really big awakening and will potentially be, the thing that makes them really good at having a relationship with me is that they had to go through a bunch of crap and like take ownership of their stuff and take responsibility for what, they did wrong or what they needed to learn or grow up or et cetera, et cetera. So I had to kind of reconcile that within myself because my intention was a little bit like, I don't want to say bratty because that sounds mean to myself, but it was a little bit like, well, I ain't like that. Like there wasn't like a good reason. It was just, I don't like that. And having to then examine it, I made peace with the fact that no, that's okay. I actually think that could work. And however, I'm still not sure how I feel about someone having children. I'm not opposed to it, but I'm definitely not like fully on board.
And that's okay because you know what? There's plenty of people who are like, I actually maybe prefer that. And people do have different preferences in relationships and it's fine.
There are people who are like, I don't want to have my own kids, but I would be fine to be a stepmom to someone. And it's like the best of both worlds.
Exactly.
Great.
So you don't have to make yourself okay with things that you're not really okay with.
You can have a line. You're allowed to have a line as long as you examine what the line is and what the intention behind drawing that line is.
Yeah. I don't want us to buy into the old adage that love conquers all. Love does not conquer all.
No.
There are some things that are avoidable because you just weren't on the same page and you were never going to be on the same page and that was going to be a deal breaker.
Yeah. Yeah, no, love doesn't conquer all. I'm sorry if that's grim. But you have to have the right environment for love to flourish. And there's a lot of things that go into that environment that I'm not going to get into at this moment. But one of those things is you have to be like very much on the same page about your values around family and children. And it can't be like,
I guess that's okay.
Comes first and then all of these other things. No, the other things kind of should come first. And then if, you're like, I could totally do that and I love this person, great.
Yep.
I don't know that being head over heels is the thing that like convinces you, okay, sure, I guess I can take on his kids. I really don't think that's how it works or should work.
I actually get the sense that your intuition is speaking very loudly here. And now you're just trying to come up with reasons for why your intuition is saying what it's saying. And you're like, I guess it's this. I guess it's this. But at the end of the day, you kind of already know. You're just looking for proof.
Yeah.
Or a way to explain it.
I don't actually think you sabotaged this relationship. Because you said at the beginning, I sabotaged a budding relationship. And I said, no, I actually think that you listened to your intuition.
Yeah.
And you put a pause on something that didn't feel right to you. And now your work is, you need to introspect on your own in solitude and figure out, what do I value? What do I want? Have I drawn this line authentically or have I drawn this line in a place of fear?
And where are my intentions around the things that I want? Where'd this come from?
Yeah.
What am I actually really okay with? And what is just a hard line?
Right. So maybe that's some therapy. Maybe that's some coaching. I don't know. But there needs to be a period of reflection so that you can get really, really clear on your own about what your values are. And then you become a match to a person who can actually, be a fit for your values and what you want. And it's really hard to do that when you're already in a situation and you don't know how to feel about it. Like, that's why it's like singledom is a great thing for many reasons. And one of them is because it gives you the opportunity to reflect and to not owe anything to anyone else and to really get clear on what you want. So I don't think you sabotaged anything. I think you actually are doing the right thing.
Yeah. I think you know what your gut's telling you.
Okay. I mean, on that grim note, love does not conquer all. Bullshit.
Welcome to 2020.
Welcome to 2020. No, that's not how I actually feel. And you know that. But we have to bridge the gap between being hopeful and practical.
Yep.
And, you know.
We wouldn't be good coaches if we weren't both.
Yeah. And also, I'm so invested in everyone who's listening to this getting their long-term vision fulfilled. And in order to do that, you often have to do hard things in the short term.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you have to end relationships when you're not sure about them. And you have to go do that self-reflection. You have to like have difficult conversations with your spouse. You have to not give a crap what people think. You know, like you have to do a lot of difficult things so that you can ultimately get what you want in the long run. And what I think she wants is, you know, real love and connection and partnership and fulfillment. And she deserves that, but she needs to spend some time getting clear on whether or not it's possible with this person.
Yep.
So, okay.
All right. Well, as Rachel said earlier, we would love to hear updates from anyone who we answered questions from today. We'd also love to hear how any of this resonated with some of you who didn't write in these questions, but maybe are getting something from this as well. So we always have a link to where this episode lives on our website, and you can go leave us a comment to let us know how it resonated with you today.
And just a reminder, you know, you can always submit us a Dear Krachel question. We got a bunch this last time, and I wasn't able to pick all of them, which made me sad. I always want to pick all of them.
I know.
But who knows? I can, you know, if I have a slow month, I can always go back and see if there was ones that I didn't get to that I wish I could get to now. But at any point, you can always, every single episode show notes has a link to the question box where you can submit a Dear Krachel question. You can also email us at contact@clarityonfire.com and just write, you know, us a Dear Krachel question over email at any point. And, you know, we always happy to read them and consider including them if the mood strikes and if it's relevant to everyone.
Yep. So again, Happy New Year. And we will be back on Tuesday with a blog. We're getting back into our normal podcasting schedule.
Okay, well, we don't know what that's going to be about yet because you haven't even thought about what to write about, I'm assuming. But, you know, by the time that happens,
we'll all find out together.
Okay, bye.
Bye.